Hello everybody, thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favourite spatialisation tools, which is called Ambeo Orbit. So let's have a listen to a clip and we'll go from there. Okay, so the sound in question here is this one. So if you are listening on a stereo system, you'll notice that this middle part had a kind of interesting panning sweep from left to right, and other parts from right to left. So it's not done with a regular panning tool. What we've used here is something called Ambeo Orbit. And what this is what's known as HRTF, or head-related transfer function panning. So basically what's going on is it's doing the same job as a regular panning tool, in that the left or the right channel will just get quieter, so which gives that feeling of something being more on one side than the other. But also this makes use of actually making the left or the right channel happen slightly later in time. So this is a kind of psychoacoustical phenomena, if you like. So in the real world, when a sound happens near you, your ears pick up that sound slightly different times from each other. So then that's what gives your brain the sort of information it needs to know where that sound came from. So there's also some other stuff built in here, such as elevation, which is supposed to give the feeling of something being above or below you. But this doesn't actually work on everybody. It depends on the way your ears are, literally the physical makeup of your ears. So some people will perceive this to sort of work, the elevation thing, but it doesn't really work for me. But yeah, for some people it does. The azimuth thing, so the left and right and back and forth, absolutely does work for me. And down here we can choose how much reflections we have. So it adds like or you can tell it's add tiny bit of kind of reverb type thing, and it's very, very subtle, but really adds to the kind of realism feeling of it, and it helps you to feel like you're really in that space. So let's go ahead and set up Ambeo. I should mention Ambeo has now been replaced by its successor, which is called Dear VR Micro, which both Ambeo and VR Micro are both free, so you can grab them in the link beneath in the description. Okay, so we've got our sound, sort of raw sound here. Okay, so I've got Ambeo on it, and it's worth noting that with most source sounds you will want to have it mono before it goes into Ambeo. So what can be worth doing is chuck a utility before it and then choose just the left or the right signal. I'm going to go with left. Okay, so then go over to Ambeo, and then what I'd like to do is just group it and set up a macro on the azimuth, and then set the range from 0.25 to 0.75. Now what that means is that when our macro is in the center, our sound will be right in the middle, having nothing done to it at all. And then as we move it all the way to the left, it will be all the way on our left. If we move it all the way to the right, it'll be all the way on our right. If you want to be able to make the sound go behind you, then you need to have the ranges go all the way from 0 to 1. But often in a dense mix, it can be quite difficult to sort of actually hear the kind of going behind you type thing. So I tend to just stick with left through front to right. Okay, so let's just have a listen to the sound and just set up the reflections. Okay, so it doesn't actually really sound like there is anything going on here, but if I change the size, we can start to hear it a bit more drastically. And it actually gives like a really quite believable reverb sound. So anyways, I'm going to go with not a huge one, probably around 20 or so. And then I'm going to leave the type of wall as drapes, because it sort of sucks up the high frequencies, so I like that. If you want to have harder materials, then you will get more high frequencies coming back at you and longer diffusion time. Okay, and then I'll just leave the reflections alone. Then we've got the clarity and the width. I'm going to leave the width alone because I find that when you have a wide sound, it kind of can often take away from the movement of it. So the whole point of this sound is to have really obvious movement going on, so let's just have no width. And then we have clarity, which is not 100% certain on what it does, but it seems to kind of change the way that the reflections and things sound with the original sound itself. So when you turn the clarity up, it does seem to make the sort of original sound stick out a little bit more from the reflections. So why not? Let's leave that about 50%. Okay, and just have a listen to what we've got. Okay, so now I'm going to set up a automation. Let's have it go from left to right. Or right to left. And as you can tell, as long as you're listening on a stereo system, it has a really quite interesting panning effect, and it's a little bit more immersive and believable than a regular pan. Okay, so one thing to be aware of though is that this effect will be super obvious on headphones and stuff. That's the ultimate place to hear it. This is also known as a binaural pan. So yeah, the best place to hear it is on headphones. Stereo system, you're going to hear it and it will probably sound good, but when you hear it on a mono system or a large stereo system, there's a good chance that the effect will kind of be lost a little bit. You'll still hear the sound, and it shouldn't sound awful or anything. It will just, the movement will be not as immersive and believable as it could have been. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. Go and get Ambeo and have a play with it, and I shall see you next time.